Today on the Videomaker Podcast, Chris and I are back after a little bit of a hiatus for the holidays. We talk about CES this year, which was a kind of a unique CES, like everything is unique nowadays, but we talk about some of the new products that were announced and some of the awards that we gave out for Best of CES. We also talk about our 2022 predictions for the video industry, the pandemic and the like. Hopefully you find that part interesting. You can go back if you're interested and listen to our 2021 predictions. We haven't listened to those predictions since we recorded them, so boy, I hope we were right, or maybe I hope we were wrong, I'm not sure. But anyways, as always, if you've been listening to the podcast and you enjoy it, we would love it if you went to iTunes or Spotify and hit the subscribe button. It's really convenient for you to deliver the podcast straight to your mobile device whenever we release one. It also helps out the podcast quite a bit, so love it if you were to do that. Okay, all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Videomaker Podcast. I'm Mike Wilhelm, and with me, as always, or at least, again, is Chris Monlux.
Hello.
And I say again because, it's been a long time since we've been in these chairs.
Yeah, we taped a bunch ahead of time, and then we took some time off for the holidays, and now we're back at it in a new year. Feels like still 2020. But in fact, I think you lost a year the other day. I hit my anniversary of being here for 7 years, and Mike's like, congratulations for 6 years, and it's interesting because it'll do it to you. Yeah.
I mean, everyone has that experience where they, it's the new year and they have to go write the date, and you put last year's date on it. I must be getting old because now it's going to the next level where. In this case, I wrote the wrong date on. I did math in my head using the old date. I wrote it down. I sent it out. Chris challenged me on it. I redid the math in my head and was like, "No, Chris, I'm right." And then it took him saying, "No, dummy, it's 2022."
Well, and 22. I'm excited about 22. It's an easier one to 22 to write, and then we get 2/22/22 this year. That's on a Tuesday, so that's going to be great. 2/22/22 is a Tuesday. Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of T's.
That's a lot of twos. Yeah, that's kind of fun for those that like that kind of thing. I can still remember 7/7/7. So
the last one I think was 12/12/12.
Yeah.
2/20. Yeah. So there's no 22nd month, I guess, but close. 2/22/22.
If we were outside of the U.S., it wouldn't work because it'd be 22.
It'd be better. It'd be
22.
Better. Well, I guess, there'd be the 0, but otherwise you could go 22/2/22, right?
Yeah, you could do...
That's reversible.
Yeah, what's that called? Palindrome, forward and backward. Anyway.
Yeah. So let's see. The big thing that's happened in the last, month or so since we had an episode, a month and a half, I don't even remember when the last one was, but is CES.
Yes.
Now... Typically, Videomaker goes to CES. I think Matt, our founder, has been going since 1986. Obviously, skipped 2021. We went in 2020. Actually, some people think that CES 2020 might have been like the initial super spreader event in the United States. I don't know if that's true or not, but we were there.
Yeah, I didn't get it after that, but
no. But we were there. And skipped last year. There was a digital thing, which was kind of a bust.
Yeah, I don't think, and everybody from the get-go, it was canceled really early on, so it wasn't like everybody was like, yeah, of course it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas this year it happened.
Yeah, it kind of happened. So actually, there's a decent number of announcements. Although in our industry, not a ton. It was quite a bit different in the sense that the camera companies have kind of broken off onto their own schedule. They don't really follow CES the way they used to.
Yeah.
Although that's been a trend that has been going on for years.
Yeah.
We've seen over time the importance of CES to the photo video industry kind of dwindle.
Yeah, it's the biggest show in the U.S. and I went through the whole list looking for people to connect with and everything, and I don't know, 8 to 10% of those were industry related.
Yeah.
Otherwise there's, you name it. I mean, there's all of the home and garden stuff, your smart Peloton thing. I saw one year a printer that would print different patterns on your nails, so you could have crazy nails. With I think I actually saw Golden Girls, so it was every finger had a girl. Just all sorts of weird stuff at CES.
Yeah,
like BMW released a car that changes color.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah, it's really neat. The technology too, but that's not related.
No,
that's I could probably go to CES and enjoy myself and not even see anything related to video production, but. There are some, and we gave away awards. There's actually enough that it was. Sometimes the list is easy, like you go, oh yeah, of course, this wins, and other times we debate because there's too many good things, or some categories that we've given awards in the past. There's just that category dried up. It's always an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like we go into every CES with this mindset of oh, CES isn't that important for video anymore. It's going to be tough to find these products. And actually, almost every year we come away with some pretty decent picks, I think.
Yeah.
This year it was a bit of an exception in the sense that there really wasn't much in the way of cameras of any kind, except for one, which I guess we'll get to in a sec.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the big camera companies, while they were there, they had booths there, they had product on the floor. They didn't have new cameras, and the people who were normally there to make the announcements weren't there. I don't know if we said it up front, but we weren't there.
Yeah. And it was interesting. I noticed when we were booking them and when they started canceling, because at first we thought it was going to be, not quite a full show. It was not as... normally we could have 60 meetings, and we were maybe half of those brands were there, but it was well enough to come and go to the show and to bring a team there and everything. But it wasn't until all of the brands that have their meetings in the hotel rooms and suites, which have different rules of cancellation.
Yeah.
They just started, all of a sudden they were all gone.
Yep.
And that was what was left. And honestly, there was probably some good stuff that would really be great if we lived Las Vegas adjacent, maybe LA or something. It might not be that big a deal. Oh, we'll drive a couple hours and we'll do it. No big deal. But we have to fly there, and it wasn't quite enough to fill up 2 days worth of work. So it would have been hard for us to do. Yeah,
not to mention the fact that the people we normally meet with decided they weren't going, I guess, right? So we're going to go there to see a product in person, but then talk to our contact there remotely, I guess, or it was just weird.
All sorts of strange things, and no one really knew what they were doing. But it was, I think, having the show happen though was a good thing, because these announcements did have the feeling of announcements normally have. I don't know.
That's true.
They had the virtual NAB, but no one really made announcements there, and but it felt like, oh no, people were coming. I think at this point they're busting to bring something out, and it seems people are buying stuff, so it's probably not a bad time to make those announcements. It's just hard to get with people.
Yeah, so we gave away a handful of Best of CES awards. Maybe we just sort of breeze through this. There's a couple of highlights. Maybe thematically we might say, actually, something that was kind of new to us was the fact that there was actually a lot of laptop announcements, and a few desktop computer announcements, which normally you would think it would be, but it really isn't much of a computer show.
And I think it's the immersion of these really slimmed down NVIDIA GPUs that can be in these laptops, along with, of course, the metal embargo and on Chinese steel and whatnot. So, no one was building desktops, I think, because of that. That's my prediction on that. But we did see in the desktops that were announced, they weren't your normal form factor, which was, I think, telling as well to that same story. But, really, if you could get a laptop and a desktop for the same price, I kind of feel like you're getting a free monitor, and portability. But I can tell you this, it's not fun to have to use one when you need all the ports on your desk and you just don't want cables everywhere. It's kind of ugly, but otherwise it's a super win. But yeah, we and it was, for us, we're just needing to get the prices on this stuff, because the computer world, there's only a few chips they're going to be offering new every year, and from the Telltale, AMD, and Intel. So those updates happen for every manufacturer that uses them. So it's all about kind of the peripheral, the things that come along with that. That is either the value, which is through the price, or through their build material, or what special bells and whistles they might have. And of course, CES is a total gamer show.
Yeah,
this is where gamer monitors everything gamer comes out, really. This is where your new microphones, your new headsets, your new light-up keyboards. I think I said keyboards already twice. They're very important.
So the two that are in this category that we gave the awards to, so the laptop, the best pick for us was the Acer Predator Triton 500 SE, which we've given awards to the Predator before. It's a great, basically a gaming computer that is also a great video editing computer.
Yeah, they just get away with it not being enterprise CPU, GPU, and everything, and hard drives and RAM, and it's a great value for those that are like, hey, I'm not going to be always using this. I don't need it to be a workhorse, or I don't need it to be 100% dependable. They're going to have a shorter life than like something else, but those are going to be probably twice the cost.
Yeah,
and it's a good looking laptop, and they're always built really well. They do a good job of making the case and making it robust but thin.
Yeah, it's always like a kind of tricky because there's a bunch of laptops that come out every year, and they're very comparable in specs. It's like, really, how do you decide between these two laptops that just look different, but the guts are kind of the same?
Yeah.
And ultimately this year we were thinking about, boy, these two laptops are very close. One is very gamer and one's not very gamer. Do we, mark points against the gamer one because it's got flashy LEDs and sharp corners? But ultimately, no, we went with the gaming computer, the Acer Predator. And then on the desktop side is the HP Z2 Mini G9.
Yeah, and these are, again, the weird form factor, and it's that same technology that's making laptops really capable as, hey, we can make small desktops now.
Yeah.
And, hey, we can fit some big muscle inside. I'm excited to see some desktops. Since it's been dry, it's been nice to see some coming out, especially some that are really capable. And the thing about a desktop is usually they can be configured 900 different ways, and can be like a range of like from $2,000 to $35,000 for the same platform. So it's nice that there's some new HP workstations, and the cool thing is their monitors are really nice looking, but that these can like connect on the back of the monitor, so you pretty much have like an all-in-one with the way they can be combined, so you don't have everything poking out and whatnot. But it's definitely not the big old giant tower that we used to have.
Yeah, that's right. And that's just how the industry is kind of going these days, So actually, if you want to see the full list, you can go to videomaker.com, and they're all there. Maybe we'll just mention one other highlight before we get into our 2022 predictions, which is the Roland Aerocaster. It's like a live switcher.
Yeah.
Incredible thing about this is it can handle 4 video inputs via smartphone, and it's a little switcher. You got 4 faders. You got all the switcher controls, and it's like $200. So for consumers, streamers, the like, it seems like it's a really incredible machine. Roland is really good at this. They do these very consumer level live stream switchers.
Yeah,
and this is another one.
It's $295.
Oh, $295.
But, the really cool thing, so we're using right now Sling Studio. It's how we wirelessly connect our cameras and stuff, and it's mostly just so we don't have a bunch of wires everywhere. But you can also use phones with it, and I always thought that was really cool. Mm-hmm. And I think this is like just that perfect setup for someone that's doing all their production on their phone anyway. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, cool. Now you can do multicam with cell phones. That's rad. Mm-hmm. That's like so on the go. That fits in a suitcase on a carry-on.
Yeah, the thing that we've got, the Sling Studio, same thing, but it's $1,200. I think still it's pretty dang expensive.
Yeah, well, and it's doing wireless HDMI transmission, so there's some things there that are far over this. But you get to use smartphones, so you don't have to have a special dedicated camera. I don't know. It's a full. You could do a 4-camera multicam with like something that fits in a backpack along with your tripods and stuff. That's
for $300.
Oh yeah, like just get a bunch of Gorilla Pods and hang it on stuff. Like that'd be pretty impressive.
So to me, that's the most exciting video product here. Actually, I did tease the new camera. And it's basically kind of like the Osmo.
Yeah, the DJI Osmo. The way it used to be, not the Mini now, but with a dedicated camera that's an interchangeable lens, and this is a Micro Four Thirds camera. Yeah. Now it's really just, we like to see that there's more happening in that category. It looks pretty neat. Its capabilities look nice, and
it's the X Dynamics Libra.
Yeah. So pretty cool. But the Roland, we saw that, and it was just like, oh, this is it. No, that's winning. Like as soon as we read what it was and its price, we're like, yeah, okay. That's the live switching or just streaming gear in general is just so dynamic right now. It's cool when those things are like, oh yeah, that's exactly what people have been wanting. And now there's a thing.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Should we transition over to some 2022 predictions?
Yeah.
Do you remember, Chris, did we make 2021 predictions last year?
I think we have. I think we've done it over the last week. We should probably revisit it to see how much we were actually true. I think we were probably saying people are holding off on announcements and they're waiting until next year to do it this year.
Yeah, exactly.
And that kind of happened. But, I think, I think that based on like the way things are going, there's going to be some have-to announcements. I think there's been some technology that would have been out in cameras, I think, a year ago. I think we would have progressed. I mean, look at all of the camera manufacturers that normally put out, 3 to 5 models a year, and we're hearing about 1 or 2. And that just reminds me of like they started making them before the pandemic started. And so they have inventory they have to sell versus like the idea and tooling it up and all the rest. But I don't know, Mike, what do you think as far as production goes? I was thinking this is where I wanted to think about is what's coming new to camera? Are we going to get higher resolutions? Are we going to get a higher bit depth? We're going to get higher frame rates? Or are we going to get like something innovative, just something left field type of a thing?
Well, what I think is going to happen and what I'd like to happen is going to be different. Personally, I think we're most likely to see higher resolutions, or rather than higher resolutions, I should say, the bottom end will rise up in resolution. So that is 8K will be more of a thing, more common. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a smartphone this year that shoots 8K.
Yeah.
Is it out already?
I think
I feel like I should Google that.
Yeah, I think that's actually a thing.
Yeah. At any rate, 8K is just going to come down market. And likewise, whenever a company can add frame rate, they're going to. They're going to put in crazy, higher than 1,000 frames per second, 1080.
Yeah. I think the frame rates, but I see it coming to the higher resolution. So far, doing like 4K 60 is at the high end of most any camera's capability. That's in the other outside of specialty cameras. I think there's like the Blackmagic Ursa 12K that can do that. Or maybe a 120 at 4K. But I think that what you're going to see is, like you said, that next step up. So we're getting, I think, 220 or 240 in HD or 720 maybe. And now I think that's going to rise up to the next level. So 4K will start getting 60, 120, maybe 180. Or we'll end up seeing like 8K 60 or something like that, which really is already happening at some level. But I think that it's in the consumer stuff, where we cover cinema cameras when they fit in to a budget, understandable budget. But as soon as you start getting into, I typically rent my camera, we're probably not covering that, right? So I think that's when you get specialty cameras. It's definitely a camera meant for a specific need.
One that we saw with the new DJI D4,
Ronin 4D,
that's right, is the LiDAR autofocus.
Dude, way cool.
Yeah, I think we'll see more of that. Maybe it won't come this year, maybe it'll be next year, but LiDAR autofocus I think is going to be the thing.
If people want to get a chance to see it in action, my band made a music video with it, and it's Shrew Music on YouTube, and it's amazing in certain parts of it. It looks like it's green screen because he's so sharp amongst all the rest of the like just soft around him, and I was really impressed by like
handheld too.
Oh yeah, totally. Like just on an uneven surface of all sorts of dirt road. I mean, just really difficult backing up shooting. And although I stabilized the crap out of it, still that was mostly just I think to the high difficulty of what we were shooting, but that it was really amazing to how sharp it was, and how good that was without doing anything. I mean, it was literally like I turned it on tight, like didn't flinch 1 second, we changed everything and it just stayed with it. And I think that's just the idea of that in general, right? It's almost like how bats see stuff, right? When they're doing that with actual radar, I think, right? Or
they do.
What is that?
Sonar.
Sonar, that's right.
That's
yeah.
right.
So they see with sound.
Yeah, they make sounds and then they.
So this is seeing with light, which is what we normally do. But anyway.
Well, it uses depth, through light beaming out and returning, right?
Yeah, that's right,
yeah. So that's what I think. But you know what I think actually kind of breaking off of technology a little bit is I think this is the year that creators lose all trust or turn against the platforms.
Really?
That's my prediction. Yep. I think that we're in a spot now where online creators, people who are making a living with an online audience with video, this is an industry that has matured to the point where the sort of naivete that was surrounding the relationship between the platforms and the creators is now gone. I think YouTube was started up in 2005 or something. It took a couple of years before they started paying people. But this notion that if you want to be a creator, you need to make videos with tons and tons of views and get ad revenue from it, I think that's coming to an end. I think people are already at the point where if they want to start becoming a creator, they know from the get-go that they got to do something beyond getting ad revenue.
Yeah.
And likewise, I believe that people now have enough distrust in the algorithms that creators will focus on developing their own direct, high-quality audiences that don't rely on the algorithms.
That's good. I could see all that happening. And I think it also, based on those things, will also stifle those wanting to jump in and do it all for nothing. Like, I've heard more stories of creators, people getting close to being able to make it. Like, they took the big leap, like, I'm doing this full time, and then they had to go back to doing a normal day job.
Yeah.
And just like, rock bands and that kind of stuff, there's big booms of just all of a sudden it's a craze and people are all doing this thing. There's still very few that get successful, and that's still true through the huge volume though of YouTube or not just YouTube, but I mean, Facebook's hardly paying anyone, right? And how people are going to continue to give them content, I think, is going to be, especially when there's competitive other options, other ways. Now, if you've already built an audience, then yeah, you can start to diversify. But the ability to make an audience from nothing is going to become, I guess it's not as I think naive as it once was, right? People are coming in with it as a career goal or whatnot. It's not something that you just happen into as much.
Yeah, I think that there's a segment of people, maybe this is the majority of people who want to become famous, and they will see some algorithms as a way to kind of propel them. So this happened on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
The TikTok algorithm sent, a relative obscure creators into the stratosphere because their algorithm favored them so much. But someone who has been in the media industry knows that type of fame is fleeting, right?
Yeah.
And that you can't rely on that algorithm for a career. Maybe it'll give you a boost right up front, but you got to somehow take that audience and turn them into some sort of loyal following.
Yeah.
To try to make a career out of it. I just heard Hank Green recently, who was one of the YouTube pioneers who founded VidCon. He said that most creators who have had a career that's lasted more than 2 or 3 years have done so by constantly reinventing themselves.
Yeah.
And except for those, and this is the implied part that I'm pulling the prediction out of, except for those who have developed a deep connection with their audience and developed a strong loyalty with them. But people who rely on the algorithm and rely on the search or the subscribe button, and they rely on YouTube to deliver them views based on how many people click the subscribe button, those people really do have to constantly reinvent themselves, or they just go away. So many YouTubers will get to 1 million subscribers. It costs all kinds of blood, sweat, and tears, and then they get there and they're like making a middle class living, and it's just not a good life because they're playing to these algorithms. They're hitting a plateau. They're seeing their ad revenue decline as as online video becomes like a commodity, that they have to have a more strategic approach, a long-term strategic approach, the same way that bloggers did. I don't know if this was the case when you started here, Chris. When I started at Videomaker, there was a lot of people who, just regular people, who were trying to make a go at being bloggers by writing a blog and putting up Google ads on their site. And today, most of those people are gone because you can't really have a career that way. You have to be more deliberate about selling advertising and maintaining an audience that sticks around.
Well, and I think the part of that's happening to social media is that the machine is not there to help them succeed as it benefits the operator. So, like, YouTube's not. They've done okay to giving, but there's just so numbers, and I think they also have their self-interest more in mind. I think that's obvious, but that you think of, okay, so I'm going to use my behind-the-scenes footage to get my TikTok going up, and then I'm going to promote my YouTube with that. And so you have to make your own machine that feeds into it, and I got to have this arm doing this and this arm doing that. It's not just like this straightforward thing where you can go like, I'm doing this, and this is enough.
Yeah.
So it's always that thrust for more and more when, good isn't quite good enough, that's the stuff that really like pines me about making and creating for YouTube is the idea of that, like, an algorithm passing you by or you not having quite that hook means all that effort was really for none, or that because YouTube didn't see what they wanted to see, no one gets to see it. And that just sucks because it's like, I don't know how many videos. I mean, I just think the stuff that I get fed every once in a while that's like 85 million views, 12 years old. It's, the guy throwing a symbol off the mountain, or the guy that did the very first video on YouTube. That they're just nothing. They're just these things that people looked at and watched a bunch, and that they were favored for that. It wasn't for being good or quality, which is unfortunate. Which I think, I don't know. I wouldn't say the television industry necessarily is that way, because there's a lot of good things that have also gotten canceled. But typically, I think at least the bar is high for success as well as quality of art. Yeah,
actually, on that note, just deviating a little bit from this prediction, but you remember that YouTube channel Epic Mealtime?
I think so.
Yeah, so they made videos about like making this crazy food that has a lot of bacon and cheese in it, right? Like novelty stuff.
Yeah.
100-pound burger or whatever, right? And they were really popular for a while, and then the views started sliding and sliding and sliding and sliding. And I think they're close to like shutting down the channel now. This is a reminder when you look at this, this is what happens on TV all the time. Views start to slide. People, their taste change. They want to move on. They want to see something they'd never seen before. So shows get canceled.
Yeah. There's not a how many people are watching this right now indicator on your TV.
Yeah.
So you could be the only one watching thinking this is art.
Right.
But it doesn't show you how successful it is other than its ability to continue to stay around.
Yeah, exactly. So considering most people who are creators are not going to be in the tip-top, echelon of viewed channels or social media profiles or whatever, that doesn't mean that I'm going to call them middle-class creators can't earn a living and make a career, but they can't do it by just placating an algorithm. And I think people are going to, this is the year that people start to understand that.
Those that don't have a gimmick working for them are going to need to find one. That's what I don't know, I watch a channel called Lockpicking Lawyer, and he picks locks. That's all he does. But he also makes on the side the tools you need to pick the lock. But each time it's just him unpicking it. And he's like, hey, if you like these tools, they're over on my website.
Yeah.
And he makes probably a great living just doing that, but he has to sell the tools on the side. Surely the views enough will not get him there, even though it's a very popular channel.
Yeah. A easy rule of thumb to see how to try to predict how much money you're going to make on a YouTube channel selling ads, not selling ads, but running ads. You could do some simple math in your head. 1 million views is $1,000.
Yeah.
And you'll look around and look at some of the biggest YouTube channels there are, total up their views, and figure out how much money they're making on those ads, and realize that it takes a lot more.
Yeah.
So you could be PewDiePie and get millions of views on every video that cost you very little to actually make. Yeah, that's going to work out great if you can do it, but most everyone, 99.99% of people will never get there.
Well, PewDiePie, 110 million subscribers, average views on his videos, 2.5 million. That's a horrible return.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not actually. It's probably great, but still, like, I mean, for him, if he's making it by himself, cool. He just made, $2,500 a day. He makes his videos. Sweet. Yeah. Super successful. That's great. But most machines aren't going to work that way, unfortunately, or it's going to take a whole lot more luck to get that point. I mean, I think he just got lucky in being the top dog when someone else was coming. And so all of a sudden he got a push of 40, 50 million subscribers just because of the novelty of it all.
Yeah. So, Chris, any pandemic-related predictions? We learned not to try to predict the pandemic, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? We as a society.
Yeah, I think well, outside of China, that just shuts everything down. I think we're learning to continue living with it and able to continue to have an output that is beneficial to keep the wheel moving. Yeah. I think that we had a total flywheel stoppage at the beginning of this, that it's taken a lot of effort to get moving again. And I think there's still a lot of people that are still on the outside that looking in on those that are continuing to do all right. I think there's a lot of people that are just not being counted right now as far as having hard times. But I think that we're at least having an understanding of what it takes to continue. I think we're going to continue to have these kinds of scary new things happen until eventually it's just either we all die or, some cool mutation comes and it's like we all get better looking and COVID's gone.
Yeah, I feel like in 2021, this is maybe insensitive or out of touch, but I think that video production discovered that the pandemic might have been a net benefit for this field.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, a lot of people have gone through a lot of pain, especially considering Hollywood shut down basically for a long time.
Sure.
But individual screen time certainly didn't go down,
Yeah.
And so the more people have eyeballs on a screen, the better it is for people whose job it is to put images on a screen.
Yeah. And it's just about keeping your eye to the changes, and hopefully not changing quite as intensely as creators have to the algorithm, but that real life doesn't quite pivot that quickly, and that we're able to adapt if we're able to see the challenge ahead of us.
Yes, exactly. So as we go into 2022, and I think this might be the year, this is a non-video prediction, but might be the year that the pandemic just becomes endemic officially, like as in the pandemic declaration may end this year. And we just treat it like we don't consider the flu a pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think that this is the year that coronavirus will just be acknowledged as a part of life. But along with that will be all of the things that we've become accustomed to over the last 2 years. Many of them will become a part of life. So remote work, for example, will be much more of a thing. It's not going to go back to how it was, I don't think.
I don't think you can change that tidal wave there.
Exactly. The increased amount of time that people spent looking at screens is not going to reverse.
No.
And at the same time, I predict that video productions, will close to get back to how they were, or be close to be back to how they were. So it's going to be a good time, I think, to be a person who makes images for screens. Now, that being said, maybe there's other challenges, like specifically with things like outsourcing post-production overseas. Maybe might not be a great time to be in post-production. I don't know that for sure, but that could happen. But overall, if you run cameras and you put screens or images on screens, I think this is the year when people realize that this is a better industry to be in than it was.
And I think that there are other industries are looking at our industry to be those makers, right? So there are more industries that need these images than ever before. And because of that, if we stay creative with the problems or communication that we're creating with our images, that I think that it's going to be something that we can really go into the stratosphere. I mean, the amount of video that's needed, I mean, it might as well be, the nurse shortage, I guess, that there's probably 5 jobs for every one creator if we're just looking hard enough. So
it's interesting to think back over the last 2 years and reflect on how badly society needs and needed video.
Oh yeah.
Video, not only in the form of communication, but entertainment, was extraordinarily important over the last 2 years.
The communication, it is a medium of just sheer communication and escapism. Those two things have been, I think, as needed at any time as they are right now.
Yeah.
And we're lucky to have it. I mean, just think about if we had this all happen when we couldn't even do something even close to a video call, or anything like that, or work remotely. Like the internet wasn't as robust as we have it right now. It would be. This would be. I mean, I guess there's a lot of countries that that is the news, but I guess that really I wouldn't say lucky we're lucky to have the technology when the situation happened. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if this same virus was here 100 years ago, and it was a close one but you'd still have to go to work. Like a lot of people.
How about just in the late 90s? I mean, how about, what I mean? Like it might have been even in the 2010s. Like I still had a computer that was an editing computer and a desk computer for writing and using the internet at my job. And it was just, 10, 12 years ago. So
you had to be there sitting at it, no remote.
Exactly. I had a that wouldn't have been a thing I could have done. The work wouldn't have been able to make it to me. I remember bringing around thumb drives of, 5 gigs of data, instead of transferring it or doing all the rest. It's like, man, everything's like archaic by that respect. And so we're really at a point where the technology was at least there to apply to our needs. Yeah. And I think, look at what we can do with, like, say, NDI, of doing remote productions, of having people feed live feeds from anywhere to anywhere to be, used in a production that's as good as any. Or, the live green screen stuff that, like, Ellen or Oprah's done. Just amazing stuff that would have never been pushed if we didn't just have this weird challenge of we can't be near each other.
Yeah. Yep. So we're lucky to have the video technology we have.
Yeah, let's stay positive, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let's see. It's not quite the. Is it the first? No, it's not the first Monday. We've had a couple. At least one other Monday of the year. But this is the podcast is kind of back in business after a little bit of a break. Maybe we'll call it there, eh?
Yeah, and hey, if anybody has listened to it all the way to the end, put in an idea of what you think we should talk about next. We want to start incorporating people's ideas, not because we've run out of them, no, not at all, but because we want to get your feedback, and you guys probably have some great ideas too. Yeah,
that's right. Let's see. I was going to say something else about the podcast. Boy, I'm blanking on what it was. It must not have been important, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll call it there. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Catch you next time. Big thanks to everyone for watching. As always, if you've been listening to the podcast and you enjoy it, we would love it if you went to iTunes and left us a written 5-star review. It's really helpful for the podcast. Also, we just love reading the reviews, so we'd be thrilled to see some new reviews pop up there. So for Chris Monlux and everyone here at Videomaker, I'm Mike Wilhelm, and you've been listening to the Videomaker Podcast. We'll catch you next time.